Hey, I'm Kathy Sanderson. I'm a spiritual therapist and inner child healer. I've been having quite a few people asking in my group, which is Inner Child Healing, for people who are looking for a way to move forward from their negative childhood experiences and trauma. And I'll put the link in the comments below. So if you want to join the group, come and join me. But we've been asking how to move forward from childhood abandonment. You know, how can you just forget about how you were treated as a child? And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's so many ways that you can feel abandoned as a child. You could have been physically abandoned. You could have had been a child who was put up for adoption, or a child that was taken away from your parents for your own safety. You could have been a child whose mum was too young, or you were the product of a rape and they couldn't have you around, so you went to live with family relatives if you weren't put up into the system, the adoption system, if you weren't given up but you were taken care of by relatives. There's that whole feeling that you were never wanted, and you've got physical proof. Then you've also got the situation where you are abandoned by your parents, however you still are in their home. Nobody notices how abandoned you are. Nobody notices that your mum goes to the pub every night and doesn't come home until she's really drunk, and then she comes home with whoever she's picked up. And that's how your life is, and you literally drag yourself and your siblings up. There's the where your parents are too intoxicated, are drug addicts, are alcoholics, and they're there with you in the household, but they're not actually paying any attention to you. They're not noticing your needs. They're not taking care of your basic childhood needs to be loved, wanted, cared for, to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel important. None of those needs are met. Basically, you have a place to sleep in. It might not be clean, it might not be a bed, but you are there and not noticed. You could live in a family where there's lots of you and you're just one of them. Your mum had too many kids, didn't know what to do with them, and you were just lumped together. You never felt like you had your own individuality, your own sense of self. Quite common when you're a twin. You know, it's always you and your sibling, known as the twins, the girls, the boys, always talked of in the same manner, though you may be very, very different. And then you may find yourself always striving to be different or very similar and feel guilty that you wanted to have that individuality. You can also be an only child, and mum and dad are working very hard to put a roof over your head, or they're just obsessed in their work, and their work seems to mean more to them than you do. So you're passed from school to childminder and babysitter, and it's very, very rare to actually see your parents or spend any time with your parents. There are so many issues that can happen if you have a depressed parent. Even though they're there with you physically, they're not there with you emotionally, because they can't be, because they're not even with themselves emotionally. So you grow up thinking that there's something wrong with you because you're not good enough. You're not enough. They can't, you know that you can't reach your mum. So there's so many ways that we can feel abandoned as a child. You may have situations that happen to you and you may tell your parents and they don't listen. And you feel abandoned of your emotional needs because they just don't believe you what's happening. You can feel abandoned because you have no friends at school. And you go to school and it's just there. and you watch other people having friendships and you don't. And you think, what's wrong with me? And it's always that thing, what's wrong with me? Why? What's wrong with me? Why aren't I enough? Why can't these people see me? Why don't they look after me? Why can't they see me as somebody they want to spend time with? What's stopping them wanting to be with me? What's wrong with me? What can I do to make it right? So sometimes when you feel abandoned, you will find that if you didn't do it in your childhood, you will do it definitely now as an adult. You will always be a people pleaser. And you'll be a people pleaser because you want people to stay in your life. You want to stay in people's life because it hurts not to be a part of anything. And if you've grown up not feeling a part of anything, then you are going to desperately want to be involved in something. If you feel abandoned as a child and you meet a group of other abandoned children as teenagers and you indulge in those activities that make you feel wanted, so you start to drink, you start to take drugs, you start to experiment with sex really early because you start to feel wanted, you become part of a group. And sometimes that's not a good thing because none of you actually can guide each other because you're all lost souls, and it can take you down a very dangerous path because you need to have that self-love. And if you are all feeling rejected and all coming together because you feel so alone, there won't be a lot of self-love there. You will just be trying to meet your needs immediately, and that can lead you down a very, very dangerous path. The importance of learning what it is that you need and how to get it safely is paramount to being able to move on from feeling that childhood abandonment. The ability to be able to know what it is that you are actually searching for and to find it safely. So back to people pleasing, you'll be the person who always opens your house to people, never goes around to other people's. You'll be the person who's always giving lifts to people. You'll be the person who's got an opinion on something but will change it automatically because you want to fit in. And it's not okay to be with a group of people and have a different opinion. Now, groups do form because people are all of the same kind of opinion. But it's okay to have different thoughts to other people because that's who makes you who you are. And you shouldn't have to change all of your beliefs and your feelings and your emotions about things or people just so that you fit in. That's where self-love work is really important, learning to love yourself because you know then that you're enough. And the sense of peace that comes because you then can say, that's okay if you don't like what I'm doing. That's your choice. This is what I'm doing and I'm happy doing it. Or you can see what I'm going through. If you don't agree with what I'm doing, that's okay, but I'd be really glad if you could just support me. Rather than thinking and worrying all the time what people are thinking about what you're doing, because that isn't freedom, that is slavery. The ability to be self-empowered and to know that whatever you're doing, you're enough, whatever you're doing is right for you at this very time, that it's okay, is really, really powerful. The ability to know that if you wake up one morning and you don't feel great and you want to go back to bed, that's okay. If you get up every day and you want to do it, then you need to look at it. But if you get up and you're just feeling a bit and you want to go back to bed, that's okay. If you want to go to bed early, that's okay. You want to have a nap in the middle of the day, that's okay. If you're not feeling too good and you want to cancel an appointment, or you're supposed to be meeting somebody and you're not feeling well, you're not feeling up to it, it's okay to cancel. that feeling of knowing that what you do is okay is so freeing, so empowering, and it stops us worrying about being abandoned again and again. If you're in a relationship and you are constantly molding yourself into something that you are not, just so that person likes you and doesn't leave you, you're not being true to yourself. You are going back to a child and worrying again about being alone. When you do your self-love work, you know that you're okay to be alone because you're pretty good. And if you're going to be alone for a time, that's okay. It's when you have your negative childhood experiences and trauma that keep replaying and replaying in your mind, and you don't like being alone. And you can't sit there in the stillness and stop being busy and stop needing to take care of other people's needs to keep you busy. When you can just sit there and be there with yourself and be present, you know that your healing is doing well. And when you don't need to distract yourself from all of those feelings and emotions from being abandoned as a child, then you can sit there and you can be still. I can't tell you how good it feels to be able to do that. And for when situations come up and you can just say your opinion. Are you the person who sits on the end of the phone listening to the salesman because you just want to be polite? How good is it to say, sorry, I'm not interested, and end the call? It's your time. Yes, they have a job to do. If it was something you're interested in, then you listen. But if it's not, you don't have to listen because you feel guilty or you feel sorry for that person on the end of the phone. That's their job. It's your job to look after yourself and your time and your energy, and only put it towards things that make you feel good. Being a people pleaser does not make you feel good. It exaggerates the fact that you don't think that you are enough for people to stay with you for being you. And when you do your self-love work, when you do your inner child work, which enables you to love yourself, because suddenly as a child you feel loved, you feel wanted, you feel important. When you do that work and you feel loved and important, it's easier to love yourself now. And when you do that work and you can value yourself and your time and your thoughts and your energy and what it is that you want to do, that feeling, that's where you can get to. That's how you can move on and no longer worry about being abandoned, about fitting in, about never finding that person who's going to save you. We're taught as children that the prince comes along and saves the princess. And that's a disempowering story that's been hammered into you from childhood. Ladies, you do not need a man to save you. Men, you do not need a woman to save you. Or you don't need a partner to save you. You save you. You heal you. You become the person who knows that you're enough, so you don't need other people to tell you. Because when you feel that way, you will meet people who know that you're enough. Law of attraction. If you feel that you're enough, if you know that you're good enough, then you're going to be sent people who are going to show you that you are good enough, that you do deserve to be in their circle. Not more than deserve, that they want you in their circle. So that's how you move on from childhood abandonment. You want to know more, you want to know how to get to this stage, book the free call with me and we can look at producing your free healing plan so that you can start to move forward, so that you can move on from your childhood abandonment.